Welcome, deep divers, to another journey into the heart of profound ideas. Today, we're not just scratching the surface, we're taking a full fledged deep dive into a truly extraordinary collection of sources. We've gathered ancient wisdom, modern insights, and intensely personal spiritual quests from across centuries and cultures. Our topic: nothing less than the paths to self discovery, the very nature of reality, and our fundamental, sometimes elusive connection to something greater than ourselves. Okay, let's unpack this with real intention, shall we? Our mission, as always, is to help you whether you're prepping for a big meeting, catching up in your field, or just insanely curious, gain knowledge quickly yet thoroughly. We want you to find those undeniable aha moments across these diverse viewpoints without ever feeling overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information that's out there. We're here to give you that shortcut to being truly well informed.
And what's truly fascinating here as we begin this exploration is how these seemingly disparate texts, some centuries apart and from vastly different traditions, continually circle back to a core human experience that resonates deeply with all of us. They tirelessly explore the struggle that so many of us face every single day, the tension between our individual will, our personal desires, our deeply ingrained fears, and what might be a greater, all-encompassing divine purpose. This paradox, this constant push and pull between what we perceive as our ego and our true essence, often dictates our experience of both profound joy and deep, sometimes relentless suffering. We're going to connect these dots, reveal the underlying patterns across these insights, and hopefully provide you with a fresh, perhaps even transformative perspective on your own journey through life.
It seems like the natural starting point for a conversation like this is perhaps the most fundamental question of all. What is this self we talk about so casually? Is it a solid, unchanging thing we can point to, or something far more fluid, mysterious, and even elusive?
That's precisely where many of our sources begin, grappling with the very definition of I. And Siddhartha provides a particularly poignant entry point into this mystery. The narrative beautifully illustrates how the self is often initially perceived as a profound enigma, something Siddhartha dedicated his entire early life to understanding, wanting to free himself from, and ultimately overcome. Yet what he found was a deeply frustrating truth. He could at first only deceive it, flee from it, or hide from it. He struggled for years with what the text describes as his small, frightened, and proud self. A self that defeated him again and again, preventing him from experiencing true joy and causing him immense fear and internal conflict.
So it wasn't just an intellectual puzzle for him?
Not at all. And the profound takeaway here isn't just that Siddhartha found eventual freedom, but that our own ego-driven struggles, which often feel so fundamental and unchangeable, are not our unchangeable essence. The death of the self that Siddhartha experiences in the forest isn't a literal annihilation, of course, but a surrender of those defensive, prideful, and fear-based patterns. This surrender, this letting go, is what ultimately opens the door to an entirely different way of being, a state of trust, joy, and fearlessness. A state that is inherently available to us once we stop identifying so rigidly with our fear and ego.
That's incredibly relatable, isn't it? How often do we feel this internal struggle, that small, frightened voice of doubt or pride holding us back, making choices that ultimately don't serve our deeper well-being? It makes you wonder then how much of what we experience as reality is truly an objective external truth, or if it's intricate and linked to how this self perceives and interprets it.
That connection leads us directly to the fifth agreement, which really challenges our everyday common sense understanding of reality itself. It explains that what our eyes perceive isn't the raw truth in itself, but rather reflected light. Our brain then takes this reflected light and interprets it through a complex, deeply personal filtering system, what the book calls our belief system, our language, our accumulated knowledge, and our entire life experience. The result isn't objective reality, but what the text refers to as a personal dream, or a virtual reality.
A personal dream, like our own movie playing out.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Two people can look at the exact same situation, say a professional setback, and one sees a catastrophic, unrecoverable failure, while the other sees a golden opportunity for redirection and growth. The external data is the same, but their internal software, their beliefs, past experiences, even their current mood, creates two entirely different realities. It's a profound challenge to the idea that there's one objective truth out there that we all directly perceive.
That's such a powerful framing. So, if our reality is essentially a custom-made construct, then the text's key distinction, saying that seeing is not thinking, becomes absolutely crucial. It's not about analyzing the dream, but perhaps waking up to the fact that it is a dream in the first place, isn't it?
Precisely. The text isn't advocating that we should stop thinking altogether, but rather that our ingrained thought patterns, our pre-programmed knowledge, often prevent us from truly seeing what is. To become what the book calls a seer or an artist means moving beyond this automatic, often unconscious interpretation. It means letting go of the pre-programmed knowledge and going beyond the symbols, the words, the labels, the judgments to master this personal dream.
Like taking off distorting glasses.
Sort of, yeah. It's like switching off the automatic overlay in an augmented reality game so you can see the real world underneath. This takes deliberate practice, a kind of mental discipline to continuously question, is this really what's happening? Or is this just my story about what's happening?
Hmm.
This analysis profoundly challenges us to consider how our deeply ingrained internal frameworks constantly filter and construct our external experience.
And if our minds are doing all this complex interpretation, this dream weaving, how unified is that interpreting mind anyway? I'm thinking about what happens at the neurological level. Could our sense of a single self be even more fragile than we imagine?
That's a critical question, and Waking Up dives into this, noting that consciousness itself is fundamentally distinct from unconscious complexity. It highlights what philosophers call an explanatory gap, or the hard problem of consciousness, how subjective experience, the feeling of being you, arises from physical processes in the brain. This isn't just a philosophical puzzle. It questions if we can ever truly understand consciousness solely through studying the brain, suggesting there might be something fundamentally different about subjective experience itself.
Right, the feeling part, the what it's like part.
Exactly. To complicate things further, the groundbreaking work of Roger Sperry on split brains, particularly his research on patients with a severed corpus callosum, suggests something quite profound. Given the immense amount of information processing occurring independently in each hemisphere, it's plausible that even a normal human brain might be functionally split, harboring multiple centers of consciousness that collaborate so seamlessly we perceive them as one.
Whoa, so our very sense of having a single, unified mind might actually be an illusion, a sophisticated construct that depends on just humble tracks of white matter, connecting these highly complex, busy hemispheres. That completely shifts the way we think about the eye. It feels less like a solid point and more like a fluid process.
It absolutely does. It suggests that the self we perceive might be more of a composite, a dynamic, harmonious collaboration, rather than a singular static entity. And if our individual brains are this complex, what about the self on an even grander scale? This brings us to a more expansive view of the self, beyond just the brain. Conversations with God introduces the profoundly spiritual idea of souls as clumps of energy that coalesce and compress into physical beings. The text describes these souls as the parts of me that have become the lot of you.
So it's not just talking about our individual existence, but explicitly framing us as fragments of a larger divine being, a universal me. This is a huge leap from neurological complexity.
It is, but the text masterfully connects them. This introduces what it calls the profound divine dichotomy. There is only one of us. There are many of us. It explains that energy, which is the fundamental stuff of everything in the universe, never truly disappears. Instead, it can become very subtle, almost not there, or it can coalesce and compress into what we perceive as matter, appearing as discrete units like us. The key insight, however, is that these seemingly separate units are, in truth, no separation at all. This interconnectedness, this dynamic interplay of oneness and multiplicity, is given as the explanation for the entire physical universe, a single interconnected energy manifesting in countless individual forms. The aha here is that your individuality isn't a deviation from the divine, but a direct expression of it.
So if we are these clumps of energy, these parts of me that are ultimately not separate, how do our individual selves, our conscious experience, relate to this universal divine force? What is the true nature of that allness that Conversations with God refers to?
Conversations with God provides a very direct and all-encompassing answer, stating, "My beingness is in everything, everything. The allness is my expression, the wholeness is my nature." It explains that God chooses to know myself and my own experience through the very act of creation, and then gives humanity the consciousness to be aware of it, thereby becoming self-conscious. This means our awareness isn't just ours alone, it's a part of the divine awareness experiencing itself. The text offers a powerful summation. I am that I am. You are that part of me which is the awareness experienced.
Wow.
It frames our existence, your very consciousness, as the divine experiencing itself through the unique lens of you. The profound insight is that you are not just connected to God, In a fundamental sense, you are a part of God's self-experience.
That's a truly profound thought that our very awareness is a fragment of the divine self-awareness. It's not just about us finding God, but God experiencing through us, which flips the script entirely. Now, the Tao Te Ching offers a different, yet beautifully complementary perspective on this universal principle, often without the anthropomorphic language.
Indeed, in the Tao Te Ching, Tao is described as something utterly pervasive. Everywhere it has become everything. It's not depicted as a personal deity, but as a fundamental, all-encompassing principle that underpins existence, a natural order and flow. The text suggests that when a village, a country, or even the entire world embodies Tao, it is protected, it prospers, and it truly reveals its inherent perfection and natural harmony. The way to comprehend it, the way to truly experience this universal principle is to truly see it as it is, whether in person, a family, a country, or the world at large. It's about perceiving the underlying unity and balance in everything, rather than imposing our own ideas upon it.
So it's about perceiving the inherent harmony and natural order in everything, cultivating an awareness that looks through the surface to the underlying pattern. And there's a beautiful analogy given about someone who truly embraces the Tao, suggesting a paradox of strength through vulnerability.
Yes, the text says that one who truly embraces Tao will become pure and innocent like a newborn babe. This isn't weakness. It suggests a state of profound naturalness, unburdened by ego, judgments, or artificial constructs. Paradoxically, despite this vulnerability, they're also said to be protected from harm. Deadly insects will not sting him, wild beasts will not attack him, birds of prey will not strike him. This implies a deep alignment with the natural flow of existence, a state where one is so at peace and in harmony with the universe that external dangers lose their power. It's a reminder that true power often comes from yielding and aligning, rather than from forceful assertion.
That idea of a spectrum of understanding of different ways to relate to the ultimate reality seems present in other traditions as well. Take, for example, the nuanced concept of Brahman in the Bhagavad Gita. It's not a simple single idea.
The Bhagavad Gita, as it is incredibly helpful in navigating these different realizations of the divine within the vast Hindu tradition. It explains that the impersonal Brahman, often conceived as the ultimate all-pervading reality, is actually subordinate to the complete supreme person, Brahman Hai Prasiham Nanone. It uses a powerful and easily digestible analogy. Brahman is like the effulgent rays of the sunshine, while the supreme person, Kesa, is the sun itself, the source of all that light. Brahman realization is described as understanding the Sat feature, which means eternity, a sense of timeless, boundless existence.
So a deep understanding of Brahman gives us eternity, but it's not the complete picture. What about the other levels of realization within this tradition?
Well, the next level, Paramatma realization, is understanding Satsit, or eternal knowledge. This is the understanding of the divine as the supersoul, dwelling within the hearts of all living beings, observing and sanctioning. It's a localized, personal aspect of the divine that is intimately present in every atom. But the ultimate, most complete realization, according to the Bhagavad Gita, is that of Pyun, who is described as Saksatanda Vigraha, encompassing eternity, Sat, knowledge, seat, and bliss, and Anda, all in complete Vigraha form.
Sat Chitananda, eternity, knowledge, bliss.
Exactly. Kyun's presented as the cause of all causes, the origin of both Brahman and Paramatma. The key insight here is that these represent different approaches to experiencing the divine within Vaishnavism, each offering a valid but progressively deeper and more personal level of realization. It's not just different names for the same thing, but different modes of relating to ultimate reality, moving from an abstract understanding of timelessness to an experience of a fully conscious, blissful, personal divine.
It's abundantly clear from these diverse understandings of self and divinity that our human experience is almost universally marked by suffering. What are the core roots of this suffering, especially when it comes to our attachments and fears, which seem to intertwine so deeply with our perception of self?
A Course in Miracles offers a very direct and a challenging explanation for this. It states that the Holy Spirit's primary function in our journey is to teach us to distinguish between true joy and true pain, precisely because we are very apt to confuse the two. What we often perceive as bringing us joy, things like control, possessions, or external validation, the text says, is actually painful to the ego. This fundamental confusion, this mislabeling of joy and pain, it explains, is the root of the whole idea of sacrifice.
Sacrifice, but it feels like we're gaining something when we pursue those things.
That's the confusion, right? The profound insight here is that obeying the Holy Spirit means giving up the ego, but it's not a sacrifice. On the contrary, you will be gaining everything. The aha is that true giving up isn't a loss, but a liberation into fullness.
So, our conventional perception of what brings us happiness is often fundamentally skewed by our ego, and that skew, in turn, leads to this persistent cycle of fear and perceived sacrifice. It turns our common understanding of what constitutes happiness on its head.
Exactly. The ego's relentless pursuit of autonomy, of being separate from God's purpose, ultimately cannot succeed because God's purpose is accomplished already. The ego aims for happiness through this illusory autonomy and control, but the text asserts that this path only brings fear and suffering. It's a powerful, almost shocking statement. Only the insane would choose fear in place of love.
Wow, that's strong language.
It is, but it isn't hyperbole. It suggests that fear is fundamentally a choice we make, driven by an illusory sense of self and a misidentification with the ego. The moment we identify with fear, we actively choose it over the inherent love and connection that is our true nature.
That's a radical thought, that fear isn't just a passive emotion that washes over us, but a fundamental, even if unconscious, choice we're making that reinforces the ego. And often, our suffering seems deeply tied to our desire for external things, our material attachments, our grasping.
Our sources extensively explore this connection, emphasizing that attachment fuels suffering. The Dhammapada warns us starkly that death takes away the man with attached mind, plucking only flowers, like a great flood, a sleeping village. It goes on to emphasize that death inexorably overpowers those who are insatiate in sensual pleasures, those whose desires are boundless and never truly satisfied.
A sobering image.
Very. And this ancient wisdom powerfully echoes Siddhartha's experience. He recounts how his high, bright state of being awake, which he had cultivated as an ascetic through profound detachment, slowly faded as he accumulated wealth, acquired a house, servants, and immersed himself in a life of sensual lust for the good life, for riches.
And he didn't just understand this intellectually. He literally felt the shift within his very being. It wasn't just a philosophical concept to him.
Precisely. Siddhartha realized that lust for the world and riches do not belong to the good things. He came to know this truth not just in his memory or through rational thought, but in my eyes, in my heart, in my stomach. This visceral, embodied understanding speaks to the profound struggle of balancing genuine spiritual pursuits with the allure and demands of material life and the inherent suffering that often accompanies unchecked, insatiable desire. The aha here is that material gain, pursued for its own sake, often leads to a spiritual deficit, diminishing our internal light and leading to an emptiness that external possessions can never truly fill.
Given these deep-seated attachments that feel so natural to us, is there a conscious, deliberate way to detach? A method of intentional letting go?
Yes, and the cloud of unknowing, a classic of Christian mysticism, offers a powerful method for this, one that is less about physical austerity and more about intense internal focus. It advises the spiritual seeker to beat evermore on this cloud of unknowing that is betwixt thee and thy God, with a sharp dart of longing love, and loath for to think on aught under God.
A sharp dart of longing love. That's poetic.
It is. The essence here is a focused, almost fierce, loving intention that deliberately bypasses rational thought, worldly concerns, and even images of God. This work, the text assures, destroyeth the ground and the root of sin, not through harsh bodily penance, which it explicitly states would help thee right not in stopping sin's stirrings, but by hiding all creatures under the cloud of forgetting. It's about a radical, active letting go of everything that isn't God, clearing the mental space for divine union.
That's intense, a complete mental purification, almost a spiritual vacuum. But when things fall apart, Pema Chodron's work offers a slightly different, perhaps more nuanced take on renunciation, doesn't it? It feels less about an external asceticism.
It absolutely does, offering a crucial distinction. While the cloud of unknowing suggests a radical mental asceticism, a deliberate shutting out of worldly thoughts when things fall apart, clarifies that renunciation isn't necessarily about giving up external things like liquor or sex or even specific worldly possessions. Instead, it's about a deeper, more internal renunciation of the hope that our experience could be different, renunciation of the hope that we could be better.
Renouncing hope, that sounds counterintuitive.
It does at first, doesn't it? But the profound point isn't that those things, liquor, sex, etc., are inherently bad, but rather our attachment to them, our clinging to the hope they will make us happy, and the rigid expectations we place upon them. It's about letting go of our fixed ideas of how things should be, which often cause us suffering. The focus shifts dramatically from the object of desire to our internal relationship with that desire, our grasping for a particular outcome.
So, If true renunciation is about letting go of our attachments and hopes for things to be different, how do we then truly acquire knowledge and wisdom that sticks, that truly transforms us at a fundamental level? It can't just be intellectual understanding if we're letting go of so much, can it?
Sri Yukteswar, the guru from Autobiography of a Yogi, makes a crucial distinction that really gets to the heart of this. He states that wisdom is not assimilated with the eyes, but with the atoms.
Mm.
He profoundly emphasizes that conviction must be not merely in your brain, but in your being.
Assimilated with the atoms.
Yeah. It means that true understanding isn't just about reading, memorizing facts, or intellectual assent. It's about embodying the truth, letting it permeate every fiber of your existence down to your very cells. It's an integration. The Dhammapada echoes this, comparing a learner to an expert who shall pluck a well-taught Dhamma word, like an expert, a flower. And through this deep assimilation, this living of the truth, they shall conquer this earth and the realm of Yama. It's an active internal process of integrating knowledge so thoroughly that it becomes a part of who you are.
With the atoms, that's such a powerful, almost poetic image of holistic knowing, a complete absorption. It makes me think about the very nature of truth itself. If it's something so deeply integrated, is there a timeless, eternal truth that we can tap into, that exists independent of our individual minds?
Augustine's Confessions speaks to this with remarkable clarity, describing the Word of God as something that is spoken forever, and in it all things are spoken forever. What's key here is the profound concept that what is spoken does not end, so that another thing can be spoken.
No.
Rather, everything is spoken forever at the same time.
Everything's spoken forever at the same time? How?
Yeah.
How does that work?
It's hard for our linear minds to grasp, right? But it isn't sequential communication. It signifies true eternity or true immortality, a complete simultaneous utterance. This suggests a timeless, complete, and unchangeable understanding that exists beyond linear time and our temporal comprehension, accessible to those who are not ungrateful for certain truth. It's an understanding that is always present, always complete, and just awaits our awakening to it. The aha here is that knowledge isn't accumulated in pieces, but discovered as an eternal whole.
So, if truth is eternal and simultaneously spoken, not parceled out over time, how should we approach education, especially for young people? Should it be primarily about memorizing facts or something much more profound, something that allows us to access that eternal knowing?
Conversations with God offers a strong critique of conventional education, lamenting a system where young people have only been allowed to memorize what their elders do. This approach, it argues, leads inevitably to imitation rather than genuine understanding, creative innovation, or the ability to enact positive change in the world. Instead, the text advises a radical rethinking. First, treat them as spirits. Give your children as much of a sense of unlimitedness as you possibly can.
Treat them as spirits with unlimitedness. That's a different starting point.
A very different one. It's about instilling an inherent belief in their boundless potential. Then, it suggests, introduce them to the world with gentleness and care, actively avoiding violence and shame, and fostering environments that prioritize collaboration, shared exploration, and self-discovery over cutthroat competition.
That's a powerful call for an education that truly nurtures the spirit and critical thought, not just rote learning or the regurgitation of information. And we see how different philosophical approaches throughout history have grappled with this very tension between different ways of knowing and educating.
It's exactly. Marcus Aurelius's Stoic approach, as described in Hutcheson's notes, involved a rigorous mental discipline, separating ideas of wealth from true generosity, or finding beauty even in nature's ruggedness rather than needing artificial perfection. This was about training the mind to perceive reality differently, to find inner equanimity. However, Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance offers a powerful counterpoint through Phaedrus's critique of Aristotle's method of categorizing and defining.
Ah, yes, the quality discussion.
Right. Phaedrus viewed this rigidly structured analytical style as akin to a third-rate technical instructor, suggesting that while it has its place for technical instruction, it can actually stifle true, intuitive understanding and the appreciation of quality. It highlights the tension between objective, categorized knowledge and a more fluid, experiential, holistic wisdom that encourages genuine engagement rather than mere classification. The aha here is that how we learn and what kind of knowledge we prioritize fundamentally shapes our capacity for true wisdom.
We've explored the self, the nature of reality, and paths to wisdom, often through letting go of fear and attachment. But if we distill all these insights, what is the ultimate force that truly unites us, that underpins this deep connection to the divine and to each other? Many sources, cutting across traditions, point unequivocally to love.
Yeah, absolutely. The Philokalia, a collection of mystical and ascetic texts, makes a profound statement. If God is love, he who has love has God within himself. It emphasizes the crucial, inseparable link between our love for others and our love for the divine, asserting in no uncertain terms that unless we love others, we cannot say that we love God.
Hmm.
The text even quotes St. John saying, if a man says, I love God and hates his brother, he is a liar.
Pretty direct.
Very. This isn't just a moral imperative. It's a statement about the very nature of reality. Love, it concludes, is the most comprehensive and the highest of all the divine blessings because it serves to unite and protect all other virtues. The aha here is that love isn't just an emotion, but the very essence of God, and its presence within us is the direct measure of our connection to the divine.
That's a truly powerful idea, that love isn't just a feeling we experience, but a state of being, a reflection of divinity within us that is directly manifest in how we treat others. And Conversations with God expands on this by connecting it directly to our fundamental interconnectedness.
Yes, Conversations with God powerfully reinforces this by stating that when you see and understand that you are one with everyone, you cannot tell an untruth, because you will be clear that it is in your own best interest to do so.
This perspective suggests a radical redefinition of self-interest. The pain of others is literally your pain, and the joy of others is your joy. To disclaim any part of the shared experience, to deny the suffering or celebrate the joy of another as if it's separate from you, is to ultimately disclaim a part of yourself. This highlights an ultimate enlightened self-interest and universal compassion and absolute honesty, as our well-being is intrinsically tied to the well-being of the whole. It fundamentally redefines self-interest to be entirely inclusive, beyond our individual skin-bound ego. If we bring this expansive understanding of interconnected love into our closest human relationships, like marriage, how does it reshape those dynamics, moving beyond traditional expectations?
Conversations with God takes this concept of love and interconnectedness and proposes a truly radical shift in what it calls marriage statements, moving away from traditional vows that often emphasize possession, obligation, and historical male preeminence. Instead, it advocates for statements that abandon rigid, restrictive vows and focus explicitly on freedom and truth within the relationship. The text explicitly mentions words which place no limitations but promise only freedom, words to which all hearts can remain true.
Freedom, not limitation. That's different.
Very different. It also makes a crucial point of not confusing the length of a relationship with its quality or its truth, and emphasizes the inherent right of individuals to reform your relationship in a different way if it ceases to serve the growth and highest good of both individuals. It's about conscious evolution within partnership, built on an unconditional love that respects individual journeys.
That's a beautiful vision of relationships built on mutual respect and genuine freedom rather than obligation or convention. But moving from these inspiring, sometimes radical ideals to everyday application, the art of loving suggests it's not as simple as following a checklist or a simple set of instructions.
Indeed. Erich Fromm's The Art of Loving acknowledges with great honesty that the practice of the art of loving is inherently difficult and crucially cannot be reduced to simple prescriptions or a how-to guide. It stresses that loving is a personal experience which everyone can only have by and for himself. The book, therefore, doesn't offer quick fixes, but rather focuses on discussing the premises of the art of loving and the fundamental approaches to it, like discipline, concentration, patience, and supreme concern.
Discipline, concentration, patience. It sounds like learning an instrument or a craft.
Exactly. This reminds us that love is not a passive feeling or a formula to be memorized, but a profound active skill to be cultivated through individual lived experience and continuous conscious effort, often involving deep internal work before it can be truly expressed externally. The aha is that love is a master craft demanding dedicated lifelong practice.
It seems like love, in its highest form, is the ultimate goal, but the path to it often, if not always, involves confronting suffering. Why is there such a strong, consistent theme of embracing and enduring pain, not just avoiding it, in these spiritual traditions? It fundamentally challenges our common, understandable aversion to pain.
The Philokalia offers a direct and unequivocal answer to this, stating explicitly that divine gifts follow sufferings endured for the sake of virtue. This isn't about masochism. It suggests that suffering, when approached with a virtuous intention for growth, for purification, for a higher purpose, can be a direct conduit to profound spiritual blessings and deeper connection. The cost of discipleship reinforces this idea even more starkly, explaining that just as Christ is Christ only in virtue of his suffering and rejection, so the disciple is a disciple only insofar as he shares his Lord's suffering and rejection and crucifixion.
Sharing the suffering.
Yes. It frames suffering not as a punishment or something to be escaped, but as an integral, transformative aspect of genuine spiritual growth and alignment with the divine. The aha is that suffering, far from being an obstacle, is often the very crucible in which our deepest spiritual capacities are forged.
So it's not about actively seeking suffering, but about finding meaning, purpose, and ultimately transformation within it, rather than desperately resisting it or wishing it away. This brings us directly to the concept of surrender, which is often misunderstood as giving up or passive acceptance.
The power of now provides a crucial clarification that dispels many misconceptions about surrender. It explicitly explains that true surrender does not mean to passively put up with whatever situation you find yourself in and to do nothing about it, nor does it mean to cease making plans or initiating positive action. Instead, surrender is profoundly redefined as the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to, rather than opposing the flow of life. This means accepting the present moment unconditionally and without reservation, and crucially, relinquishing inner resistance to what is. It's not about external inaction, it's about internal peace.
That's a critical distinction. So it's about our internal reaction to circumstances, our mental and emotional resistance, rather than a lack of external action. It's about accepting the moment as it is, internally.
Precisely. This inner resistance, the text explains, is the mind. Our egoic mind, constantly judging, wishing things were different, struggling against reality. When you accept what is, when you relinquish that inner resistance, you immediately free yourself from mind identification and thus reconnect you with being. It's about letting go of the mental stories and judgments we layer over reality, finding a profound sense of peace and presence in the present moment, which then paradoxically allows for more clear-headed, effective, and inspired action if needed. The aha is that surrender is an active internal choice that liberates energy for true engagement with life.
This sounds like a path to internal peace and profound freedom, but it also requires a deep level of self-awareness, an honest acknowledgement when we're not quite okay internally. It asks us to be truly present with our discomfort. The untethered soul speaks directly to this uncomfortable but necessary truth, suggesting that to end suffering, you must first realize that your psyche is not okay. You must then acknowledge that it does not have to be that way. It uses an incredibly accessible analogy. Just as the body communicates through pain when it's not well, your psyche is communicating through its universal language, fear.
Fear is the psyche's language.
Exactly. Self-consciousness, jealousy, insecurity, anxiety, chronic worry. These are all manifestations of that deep-seated fear, signals from an imbalanced psyche. Spirituality, in this transformative context, is framed not as a gentle pursuit, but as the commitment to go beyond no matter what it takes, an infinite journey of constantly pushing past your self-imposed limits and comforting narratives.
So those uncomfortable feelings aren't weaknesses or failures, but incredibly valuable signals to pay attention to and work with, ultimately as catalysts for profound growth and self-discovery. It sounds like difficulty itself, properly engaged with, holds inherent value. Indeed, when things fall apart, further emphasizes this, stating that our natural tendency to avoid pain and constantly seek pleasure actually makes us miserable and cutting us off from our basic heart and our basic intelligence. This avoidance keeps us trapped in a cycle of reactivity. It offers a powerful, almost urgent call to action. We would practice meditation as if our hair were on fire. We would practice as if a big snake had just landed in our lap.
Wow, that's urgent.
It is. This vivid imagery urges us to engage fully, immediately, and without hesitation with our suffering, to not postpone self-inquiry or personal transformation. The text highlights that the 8 worldly dharmas, the inescapable pairs of pleasure and pain, loss and gain, praise and blame, fame and disgrace, can actually become means for growing wiser as well as kinder and more content if we approach them with awareness and open-heartedness rather than avoidance or struggle. The aha is that life's difficulties aren't detours, but integral parts of the journey to becoming more whole.
So if suffering can be a path and love the ultimate goal, what are the concrete day-to-day practices, the disciplines, that help us cultivate this deeper connection and growth, moving us beyond mere intellectual understanding? Many traditions emphasize the fundamental importance of prayer.
The Way of a Pilgrim, a classic of Russian Orthodox spirituality, eloquently describes the fundamental and transformative role of prayer. It states with conviction that it is through prayer that one acquires the ability to perform good works, and that without him we can do nothing. The text powerfully references the Apostle Paul's own unceasing prayer to overcome temptations and confirm his inner man, emphasizing that spiritual salvation depends on prayer, as it gives life to faith and is the means through which all virtues are acquired. The constant awareness of Christ's presence and unceasingly asking in his name is what brings spiritual fruit. The aha is that prayer isn't just asking for things. It's the very breath of spiritual life, empowering all virtuous action.
Prayer as the wellspring of all good actions, a constant connection, that's a powerful statement. Beyond traditional prayer, what about broader spiritual practices that engage the body and mind in different ways, like yoga and other forms of mysticism?
The Bhagavad Gita, as it is, offers an incredibly detailed account of Upaga Yoga, meaning eight-limbed yoga, which is an eightfold procedure encompassing various stages designed for profound spiritual development. These include yama, moral restraints like nonviolence; yama, observances like purity and contentment; asana, physical postures; prayama, breath control; pratyahara, sense withdrawal; taran, concentration; dhyana, meditation; and samadhi, absorption or superconsciousness.
That sounds very systematic.
It is. The ultimate purpose of these rigorous practices is to gain complete control over the senses, withdraw from external sense objects, and prepare oneself for liberation in the Supreme. Karma Yoga, or working in Kinta consciousness, is presented as a practical explanation for achieving this liberation, leading to Brahma Nirvana and equality with Kant. It's a comprehensive system designed to purify and elevate consciousness.
And how do these structured, almost scientific practices like yoga connect with the more individual, often spontaneous, unitive experiences of mysticism that span cultures?
The Varieties of Religious Experience by William James describes the great mystic achievement as the overcoming of all the usual barriers between the individual and the absolute. In these profound states, one becomes one with the absolute and aware of our oneness, transcending the ordinary sense of separation. The text highlights this as an everlasting and triumphant mystical tradition found across numerous spiritual paths, including Hinduism, Neoplatonism, Sufism, and Christian mysticism. This suggests a universal human capacity to transcend the sense of a separate ego and experience profound unity with the divine ground of all being. The aha is that despite cultural differences, humanity shares a core potential for a unitive, mystical experience.
These paths sound incredibly personal, often involving deep internal work, but many of them also speak to the absolute importance of guidance, often through a dedicated teacher or guru. It's not a journey we typically undertake alone.
That's a critical point emphasized across many traditions. Autobiography of a Yogi beautifully illustrates the profound significance of the guru-disciple relationship, recounting Sri Yukteswar's intensive method of one-pointedness in guiding his students towards spiritual realization. Yogananda's own initiation into Kriya Yoga and his direct experience of the Divine Mother and his guru's manifestation, where the guru declared, "I am the guru sent here by God to fulfill your urgent prayer," underscores the profound, almost miraculous role such a guide can play in transmitting spiritual energy and wisdom.
A living transmission.
Exactly. It's not just about learning techniques, but about a living, energetic transmission.
So it's about a transmission that goes beyond mere words or instruction, but there's also a stark warning in the sources about the dangers of not embracing such guidance or taking teachings to heart.
Indeed, the Tibetan Book of the Dead issues a potent warning that resonates deeply. If I choose not to take the oral teachings of the spiritual teacher to heart, am I not the deceiver of myself? This emphasizes that merely intellectualizing spiritual concepts without sincere application, dedicated practice, or the invaluable guidance of a qualified teacher is a profound form of self-deception. It further stresses that understanding intrinsic awareness, the ultimate nature of mind and reality, often depends on receiving esoteric instruction from an accomplished lineage holder, someone who has embodied and can directly transmit the truth. The aha here is that true spiritual progress requires humility, active engagement, and often the grace of an authentic guide. Intellectual curiosity alone is not enough.
So with these diverse practices and invaluable guidance, how do we translate all of this spiritual work, the renunciations, the insights, the deep connections into our actual minute-by-minute, day-to-day actions? What truly happens when God's will genuinely replaces what we perceive as self-will?
Theologia Germanica, a profound text of German mysticism, answers this with striking clarity and force. Nothing burneth in hell but self-will. Therefore it hath been said, put off thine own will, and there will be no hell. This profound statement asserts that our highest good, our ultimate purpose, is not to seek our own things or to be our own end, but to seek only the praise and glory of God and His holy will.
No hell but self-will. That's intense.
It really is. The text criticizes the human desire to understand why God does things as sheer pride, likening it to the transgression of Adam and the devil and seeking to know what was beyond their station. A truly humble and enlightened person, it says, desires only to know how he may please God and become as naught in himself, dissolving the self-will into the divine will.
That's a complete, almost terrifying reorientation of our purpose, from individual self-centeredness to absolute divine alignment. What are the practical implications for how we then engage with the world around us and with other people if our will is dissolved in this way?
Theologia Germanica further emphasizes that for a friend of Christ, works are done willingly, such things as must be and ought to be, without concern for the rest. There's no internal struggle about what to do. The right action arises naturally from alignment. This aligns beautifully with the Bhagavad Gita on karma yoga, where working in Kitsan consciousness means working with complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator, performing actions without attachment to the results, offering them to the divine. This is considered no different from transcendental knowledge itself. It's a way of living that transforms every action into an act of devotion, moving beyond the ego's desire for credit or outcome.
And this sense of interconnectedness and the ability to act from a place of higher purpose impacts how we treat others in a very profound way, extending that divine will into our relationships.
Absolutely. Marcus Aurelius, in his Timeless Meditations, offers a Stoic perspective that beautifully complements these ideas. He advises that all rational beings were formed for each other, and that bearing with them is a branch of justice. His meditations frequently return to the idea that the things themselves reach not to the soul but stand without, still and motionless. All your perturbation comes from inward opinions about them.
Perturbation from inward opinions. That sounds familiar.
Doesn't it? This Stoic perspective, combined with the other profound insights we've explored, encourages us to engage with the world and its challenges from a place of inner peace and understanding, recognizing our shared humanity. It's about focusing on our own internal state, our own will, and cultivating serenity rather than being constantly swayed by external events or the often unpredictable actions of others. The aha here is that living in divine alignment means a profound inner freedom, even amidst external chaos.
What an incredible, expansive journey we've taken today, deep divers. Here's where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Seeing all these threads weave together. We've journeyed through how the self is perceived, everything from an elusive mystery to a clump of divine energy. We've explored the deeply confusing interplay of pain and joy, and how different traditions call us to renounce attachment, not as a painful sacrifice, but as a liberating path to everything. And we've truly delved into the transformative power of love and the profound insights that come from embracing rather than frantically avoiding suffering. Recapping across these diverse traditions, whether it's the sharp dart of longing love from the cloud of unknowing, the urgent call to see beyond our conditioned beliefs and personal dream from the fifth agreement, or the sheer gumption needed to tackle life's challenges with full awareness from Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance, the common thread, the undeniable through line, is an active, often demanding engagement with our inner landscape. It's about a relentless, conscious pursuit of truth, not just externally, but within the very core of our being, transforming us from the inside out.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now in your own life? Many traditions, from the ancient wisdom of the Dhammapada to the practical, sometimes challenging guidance of Theologia Germanica and the power of now, speak of shedding the illusion of a separate self and yielding to a greater flow or divine will. This isn't about becoming less or losing yourself. It's about becoming more aligned with the fundamental interconnected nature of existence, tapping into an authentic power beyond your individual ego. And to leave you with a provocative question, something to mull over and explore on your own, consider this, drawn from Conversations with God. If, as the text suggests, we are ultimately me choosing to be me, and we have already done the choosing because there is no such thing as time, meaning from an ultimate timeless perspective, your entire journey, your path, your destination is already complete, how does this ultimate timeless perspective reshape your understanding of your current choices and your own path to discovering the divine? What does it truly mean to live in this very moment, as if your journey has already reached its destination, and you are simply experiencing the unfolding? It challenges us to reconsider the very nature of free will, destiny, and the profound power of the present moment.